Hello there, my name is Adam. I'm a project manager at Windward Studios, and I'm happy you're back for another tutorial video on making our Windward Invoice sample. Our last video went a little bit long. I give you full permission to turn me on 2x playback speed. Otherwise, I'll try and keep it fairly short and find a nice balance of time to content. And with that said, let's get started. To remind you of our goal, we're trying to build this invoice sample, and we've so far connected to our data in our sample template. You can find it here, connected to our data in our sample template. We've started putting in dynamic content in the form of our customer bill to information. Let's finish off this section of our report. What we have left to do is filling out ship to information and some other dynamic data. Let's dive right in. Our ship to information is going to be a lot like our bill to information, so I will go through the same steps we went through before. Instead of spending the same detail as I did with the customer query and the bill to and the out tags, with this one I'm just going to insert them, and I'll talk through it a little bit, but it should also give you an idea of how this process can be much faster when you're not speaking through each step that you're doing. Really, it's quite a simple number of steps. So let's go for it. All right, we'll open up our wizard and let's see what I'm doing. I need to ship to information. Finding this data. Okay, here we go. It's in our orders table. We already have our order ID. What I'm going to do is I'm going to take a different approach from last. I'm just going to drag these all over, and then I'm going to remove the ones that I'm not going to need. Don't need the order ID. I don't need the customer ID. I don't need the employee ID. I don't need the order date. Maybe this was the less efficient approach. Okay, ship via, we might need that. Freight. Actually, we don't need either of those either. We do need the shipping name. We do need the address, the city, the region, the postal code, and the country. So it seems like we're down to useful data here. And like we did before, I'm going to need to filter this so we only get the record relevant for the order that we have as an input parameter. Just like that. We have the data that we need. Once again, this doesn't look great. Let's give it a nickname and make it look tip-top. This ship query. Much better, and call this ship to var. That way I'll remember what it is later in my template. Like I said before, if I'm placing lots of out tags and I know the formatting I want to have them in, I'll usually place those all to start, and then I will fill in the data. Last video we had to change our formatting, the spacing after each line. We might do that to the whole document because it looks like we're still having that here. Okay, same as the last time with bill to, we're going to do the ship name first, the street address. There we go. Then we're going to do the city followed by the postal code. Where is it? There it is. Oh, I don't know why I couldn't find that right there. And now we will do our last value, which is the country, ship country. There we go. And let's fix this formatting. I'm going to do Control-A to select the entire document. And overall, I want this formatting to be consistent, and I just don't like that after spacing. Let's put it at 0. Okay. That seems better. Now, the naming on this tag is causing it to indent to a new line, but in the output it'll be populated with dynamic data. And so that dynamic data will determine the new line, whether there's a new line or not. So while it looks like the alignment here is off, if we try outputting, we'll see that actually it will be exactly what it needs to be to accommodate that data. In this case, it looks like both of these. Oh, there's the street address. So the street address is one line, and then the city and the postal code together on both of these, in both of these cells, only takes one line, so we don't have any indentation issue there. All right, those are all the same steps we went through in the last video. We are just doing them again for the shipping information, like we did for the customer query. And I think we put a condition in there, right? Yes, we did. Okay, great. We filled in the condition, so we have the right value. All right, now let's get on to something new, which is that we want to create this formatting of the invoice date, the PO number, and the due date. And the formatting here in the document is a little bit different. With these two, it's like we have a title here, then we have some values, title values, and we have that right now in our template set up as the title in its own cell, and then the values in a cell below that in different rows. For this formatting, this instead is more like one column and a second column, and I suppose you could format this as 1 row, 2 rows, 3 rows. Instead, what I'm going to do is format them as single columns side by side, and I'll do new lines instead of additional rows. Now, if we want a single column here, we can use some word functionality. If we go into the Table Tools layout with these two cells selected and click Merge Cells, it will merge those two cells vertically. And now we have 2 columns without needing to do 3 rows instead. And it won't interfere with these earlier cells that we made. I'll add this invoice date, PO, and due date text over here. Invoice date, I have caps lock on. Due date, PO number. I guess I can do the periods in the PO. We'll make it match. Doesn't look great to me. Okay, I'm just gonna do it like this. I like that better. And I actually got these orders wrong. Okay, there we go. And I will bold all of these to match, whoops, that's more than I wanted. I will bold these to match the desired output. And for now, I will see that these are formatted sort of separately. It looks like I could almost use that space, that points of space after a line. What I'm going to do to get that formatting instead is I'm just going to indent between these. That's easier for me. Now I'm going to start putting tags in to fill out this dynamic information. Right now we're into dynamic data that we need to populate for the invoice date, the PO number, and the due date. So I will put in my tags like I like to do into the template, and then I'm going to take care of filling those out with data. So we need to acquire the invoice date, the PO number, and the due date. I'm going to go over here to our data bin. The data bin has its own use. As a tool, what you can do is drag data and drop it into your template, and it'll put that data in as a table. Instead of doing that, what I like to do sometimes is just use it to navigate my data. So I know I'm dealing with customer table, I'm dealing with this order details table, I'm dealing with the orders table. These are all tables I'm dealing with right now. I'm going to find the data that I'm going to use for invoice date, PO number, and due date. As it were, the data that I'm going to use is in my orders table. I'm going to use this order date for the due date, or sorry, for the invoice date. I'm going to use the required date for the due date. And I'm just going to use the order ID for the PO number as a unique identifier. That's for the sake of this template. Obviously, in your own production use cases, some of these values might matter more. You might have a different unique identifier in your database than you want to send your customers the PO number. But for this template, this is what we'll do. Now, since I'm querying out of the orders database, which is also what I used to query before in my query tag, or not these ones, those are what I'm going to query now, but the shipping, postal code, name, address, those, I'm going to use the same query tag, and I will also, whoops, didn't want that one, I want the wizard. I am also going to query the values that I'm going to use in those out tags. So let's just go in here. We're going to open up the orders table, and we'll drag and drop these additional values that we want to query. Order date, required date, and order ID. And those will be queried for the same order that we queried this shipping information. That's the order that's specified by the order ID we pass in to the template as an input parameter. And then I'll go over here and I will go back to my data tree, go to my ship variable, and there's these new values that we have acquired in the query tag. Do order date required date, and then we'll do the order ID as the PO number. Let's check how we're looking in the output. So far so good, except, okay, this is a problem. Well, one thing I'm noticing is if we look at this side by side with our desired output, first of all, we want this content to be justified on the right, and right now it's justified on the left. Second of all, I don't want this weird date thing coming out in Zulu time. Instead, let us see if we can format that better. As well as let's put it as right justified. So the right justified will be easy. Let's select this text. We'll go into our table tools, and we're going to put it aligned at the top right. Wonderful. That'll be reflected in our output as well. Now, as for these dates, if we look at the dates here in SQL, as also indicated by this symbol, they are actually specified as a date in the data schema. That means we know that this is a date type, and we can also specify it as a date type in the template. That'll let us deal with it as a date. So let's specify it as a date, and if we preview that, in this case, the formatting will actually come out exactly as we want. Nothing else needed. We just need to change the type to be a date type. Let's do that again. Perfect. Now we do have more in-depth date formatting tools. Namely, if I open the tag editor, I opened it here by double-clicking, but you could also open it by clicking Edit Tag here while you have the tag selected. Going to Properties and going into Format, we can format this tag as a date, and there's all sorts of different date formats we can use. There's also custom formats. This is all I'll say on this because we don't need to use it for this template. But it's good to know that the tool exists and that we have other resources that can teach you more about that. All right, we'll continue now. Per usual, I like to output a lot and see what my template's looking like. I'm always using this default ID for now, and things are starting to look good. I'm going to turn off for this one briefly. Let's look at what it looks like without table grid lines. There's the table grid lines. Turn that off. Nice. Looking very nice. We're well on our way. Okay. Close this out. And I think this is where we'll close out the video as well. We've finished this section. Stay tuned for the next video as we continue to work towards finishing this dynamic Windward invoice sample for a dynamic input variable. I look forward to seeing you over there. Thank you.